man. Welcome back to Big Things Kentucky. We're going to zoom this one out this week, Coach. Welcome back, Coach. What's up with you, man?
What's going on? As always, man, me and my guy, Coach Truck, on the battlefield here getting it in. We're going to have a special guest today, Coach Ethan Acthley from Bullitt East, to talk about last year's season, what's going on with the state of football and high school football in Louisville. Are they going to have it or not, and how's it affecting him?
Now, I know, Coach, man, let's see, the biggest updates. I know we had Hazard County had, like 38-some kids test positive. So they've kind of shut down, man. Here in Fayette County, we had Frederick Douglass had a case. Lafayette was a cheerleader, I believe. Well, anyway, we've had 3 schools had cases. Now, it hasn't been, specified, man. So, Coach, how you feeling about the season, man? You think we're going to have a season, man?
I don't think it's looking good, Coach. It's going to be tough, man. Like I said, everybody's optimistic. I guess as long as we keep the cases down, I think they'll try to push it through. Will it finish? Will it be a full season? That's a whole nother story there, Coach.
Now, I know, across the country, I think they said Florida said they're going to start as usual. We've had Georgia say they'll be a little delayed. I believe California released they're going to be a little delayed. I think they said 2 weeks or something like that.
No, I think I was reading it. California actually said they're going to wait till the spring, I think.
Oh, okay. See, so yeah, man. And then we look at college, the SEC basically said they're going to wait till the last minute. They wait until the end of July before they decide.
Too much money involved in the SEC. I think they're going to play no matter what. The SEC, like, look here, we'll take a few casualties. We got to get this going. So much money, and you realize how much money football contributes to other programs, other organizations in the schools, keeps volleyball going, tennis, stuff like that, So, we're not having football, then a lot of those programs will suffer and may go away for good.
Now, I'm going to ask you this, man. This is something I was thinking about, and I even posted in our Facebook group, Big Things Kentucky, with Coach View and Coach Truck. Man, with the college season doing what it's doing, we've had some colleges like the SWAC, smaller colleges say they're going to do it in the spring. The Ivy League said they're not going to even have a season. We've got some of the colleges, conferences are saying they're just going to do conference only. Man, could this be setting up the quote-unquote super conference or the end of the NCAA as we know it? Because like you say, the SEC is like, look, we're going to do it regardless. And if the SEC going to do their games on a regular schedule, man, television is starving for content. They haven't been able to film through this shoot stuff throughout this quarantine as well. So sports is going to be huge, man. So could the SEC be really distancing themselves from the other conferences if they play?
I think they are. Pretty much they've already done it already. And the thing about it is it's only going to get bigger. SEC is a monster. It's a conglomerate by itself. It can sustain itself. And they said when Westcott came out at the beginning of the year saying that, when this first started, he was like, oh, we're not going to have we'll decide about the football season. The SEC kind of laughed it off like, man, we don't need you. We're going to have it regardless. So, yes, I think it is a sign of things, change to come. Also, I think it's going to still adverse an effect on basketball as well because the NCAA feel like it's its own thing too, involving basketball and how much money it comes in. So I think you can be seeing the start of something great, right, or something huge, a big jump here for sure.
Because I know the NFL said, hey, they going regardless. They like, look, whatever, man, report to camp. Even though the players is kind of like, man, I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? They like, look, just get here.
Well, let's think about it. The NFL knows there's big money involved. You got to have it. You got to have required limited fans in there. You got to have some type of fans, I think. And they said they starting off, I think, start doing testing once a week. Mm-hmm. I think when they first started, then it's going to go to every day or something like that. Then go on to twice a week, and then it's going to eventually go down. But at first, they're talking about they want to do it every day, test athletes.
Now, the NBA is supposed to be starting this week. Now, I don't really know. I think they said last time they tested, they had 0 positives. Now, a few people have kind of tested out, I guess, and they kicked them out of the bubble or whatever. So, man, how you feel about sports going through this pandemic, man?
It's a catch-22, man. People got families at home, regardless of what they pay to do to entertain. But they have families at home. They got to take care of first, make sure they're safe. So it's going to be interesting how it plays out. Then, like somebody said, I was listening to the radio yesterday. You know, you got athletes who got plenty of money, can afford to set out. I'm like, man, we can set out a season. But you got athletes like us live paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have income right now. So it's just a catch-22. You know, you want to keep everybody healthy, but everybody wants to get paid. So no matter what's going to happen, it's on you to make that judgment if you feel safe enough to continue to play in basketball, continue playing football, continue playing baseball, and at what risk are you willing to take to make his income?
You know, we're getting so much different information. Like you said, it seems like nobody really knows. Yeah. Man, I don't know if we even qualified to have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? But it's kind of like, man, what can we do? You know, what are they going to do about eligibility for these kids? You know what I'm saying? That's real important. You know, that's something, man. If any of y'all got any answers, man, let us know. Like I said, I don't know, Coach. It's just things I've been thinking about. You feel me?
But like you said, I think we talked to Ethan. Everybody we've talked to has this uncertainty. Like, we just don't know. We preparing as if it's going to happen. We preparing for preparing for the best and preparing for the worst. Even with us in youth football, you know, we tipping kids and telling kids to bring your own water bottle. If you sick, don't come. I mean, but it's a fear. I have a fear that if I get one of these kids sick, another kid gonna get sick. So it's about the point, like, how much are we willing to risk? Cats in Louisville have already started playing tournaments all over the country. Youth football is going.
So youth tournaments are going on now?
Youth tournament this past weekend in Indianapolis. In Indiana, so many people are playing. You know, I'm watching the football group I'm in there. They talking about they ready, talking trash, getting ready to go play in 1st of August. I mean, so you know what I'm saying? It's I don't know, Coach, but it's my understanding. What I'm hearing about Parker Rec here is if middle school goes, we'll probably have a season. Not sure when it'll start, how long it'll last, or it'll be shortened games, maybe 6 games. You know, it may be over in a month, it may be over in 2 months. I just don't know.
Now, I know I saw where some middle schools have started conditioning. I believe Taste Creek is one of the programs that started conditioning. We'll have to check in. I'm about to check in with my man Nick Saban Payne and see what's going on at Hayes, how we do. You know, we got to get ready to defend our championship. We win and we riding. But you know, man.
You got a guy, Anthony White, too. He's on their show last week, man. Well, give a shout out to them guys for having us on the locker.
Yes,
hey, man, it was a great conversation. Them dudes love what they do over there. Big
over
fan.
At Crawford.
Yeah. Got my guy, Cisco Brown. I'm sorry, Coach. I'm still riding with Cisco Brown. Let's give him a little more talent. And he going to give Nick Payne a run for his money, Coach.
It's gonna be interesting. I think it might come down to Crawford and Hayes again. And I don't know, man. Like I say, Cisco, he treading on that Dabo Sweeney territory now. You know what I'm saying?
He's hungry now. He know he was close, and hey, he didn't like the way he lost. That bad taste to that man's mouth right now. You heard Anthony talking about it last week. That taste in his mouth. He wants that bad taste out of his mouth. So he coming.
So what you been doing during this pandemic, Coach, man? As we getting ready here, we waiting on Coach Acthley here to come on in a little bit.
Man, just working stuff, Coach. Cooking at home, spending family time, you know, about like yourself, you know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. Getting ready to get this football season. So Avery started playing baseball, so baseball's going in full force.
Now, that's something I want to talk about, Coach. You know, you've been going to the baseball games. You know, they've started this. How has baseball addressed it as far as, have you noticed any differences as far as dealing with COVID and all that and dugouts and stuff?
Me and my wife were talking yesterday at Avery's game. You know, Andy Brashear went to a tournament with his son. He no mask, no social distance really. So he pulled his son out of the tournament, took him home. You know, at our baseball games, people are staying fairly separated. They blocked off the bleachers. You can't sit on the bleachers. You got to bring your own chairs. The kids aren't in the dugout, but they all stand behind the dugout together. So the kids are practicing social distance. So it doesn't look safe. You just pray the Lord that nobody really gets sick. Now, what's happening is 2 incidents there in our major division. A coaches came down with it. So the team has been suspended for 2 weeks. Can't play for 2 weeks. So if a parent gets it, they shut down the whole team for 2 weeks to make sure everybody's good. You know what I'm saying? So it's been interesting how it works out.
So now you say the kids are standing behind the dugout. Is that like their own option, or is that kind of like the regulations?
I guess they figured if they're in the dugout, they're in a cold setting, it's a chance that it'll spread, I guess. So I guess they figured they're outside the dugout, behind the dugout and cheers, that it'd be safer, but to me, it's about the same. Be honest with you, to me. So.
Well, I know last weekend we went to the Bluegrass Showcase with Coach Montgomery, Ryan Montgomery, and the Kentuckiana guys did a showcase or a combine. Man, we had this Bluegrass Showcase, man. It was a success, man. How you feel about this, man?
I feel good, man. You know what I'm saying? The main thing is it took a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? I'm just glad to be a part of a great team that put this together. Very, very proud of the kids that came out. The sacrifices that some of the parents made, far like getting on the road, driving 4, 5, 6 hours to come down here. Just to showcase their talents. So overall, man, we're just excited and thank God that it actually happened.
Yes, sir. Man, how hard was getting this together, man?
Very, very hard. I mean, people think it's an overnight success, but it's really, really not. You know what I'm saying? The main thing was communicating with the coaches, communicating with the facility managers, and pretty much stay ahead of the game as far as the CDC regulations and stuff like that. Because no matter what we wanted to do, you can't do it without the regulations. So just making sure all our I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, and then just again putting together a nice coaching staff to help the kids out. It took about 2-3 months to put everything together. At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, it came out to be a successful event. The kids had fun, we had fun coaching them up, and so hopefully do it again next year.
I know one thing I did notice at the combine, as you saw, it's going to be really hard. Football is a social sport.
It is.
You know, when you go to these combines, you know, they stand in line to do a drill, you know what I'm saying? And it's hard. Like, I kept hearing the coaches like, spread out, you know, but I guess the kids are so conditioned, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they just standing in line waiting to get that competition, and they wanted to compete. So I'm really worried about, you know, how do you change? Because essentially you got to change the culture of football. You know what
I love what Ryan Montgomery did that there in that group he's part of, man. It was good to get kids out there to see football. I know you had a few concerns too about kids not realizing the importance of staying away from one another, but it still went good though, so that's a good thing. Besides, no cases or anything came out of it, so you know Montgomery and Ryan did a great job keeping it organized. Sure.
I mean, the coaches stressed it. You know, they were doing their best, but the kids were kind of like in that herd mentality. Now, when you've been doing your workouts, have you noticed that? Have you been having a problem keeping them spread out and they want to kind of bunch together?
Even if you separate them in groups, they still find some way to get back together. You know, we've been averaging about 20, 25 kids, you know, so we try and keep them in small groups of 10, you know, so it's like herding cats. Like, all right, man, it's enough, stay away, so. We're going to get started here, man. First of all, glad to have you on. You know, we missed you last year in the city, man. It was just tough, but, you know, Doug took care of us, you know what I'm saying? He got us together, but let me ask you a question, man. What was the hardest thing to do when you got to Bullitt East?
Being able to get kids to buy into, you know, just some of the old school things that really help you win. You know, if you're undisciplined, you're not fundamental. You know, you don't practice hard, you don't lift hard, you don't finish reps, you know, you cheat reps in the weight room, you know, all that stuff. You can't just turn it on Fridays. And I think we finally here at Bullitt East have got those kids to really understand this is really what it takes, you know, and we're nowhere near where we need to be. You know, we were 5-6 and we made some headway with some teams that, you know, frankly, in other years, they absolutely should have beat or were close to beating, or it was a close game. And we, you know, helped instill some discipline to get those kids to play, you know, to our level, playing fast on offense, you know, being multiple on defense, but, you know, being relentless to the ball and ultimately just try to play as much team football as we possibly could. Being creative in special teams, you know, an onside kick here and there all the time is always up our sleeves. And, you know, we got creative in a few other fashions when it came down to how we implemented, you know, a few things special teams wise. But, you know, the good thing is when you go to a place that has had some tradition like Bullitt East, kids are yearning and the community's yearning for winning football again. And they've had that here. You know, they've been to 2 state finals before. The community, you know, girls basketball, I think our crowd this year at the Sweet 16 was as big as probably most boys' crowds, because the community here just absolutely eats, sleeps, and breathes. You know, they're Bullitt East, Mount Washington, you know, being the city limits, academics and school, and then it's a community-based school that loves athletics and the extracurriculars. So it was an easy sell in one sense, but there's still the work and process involved to have those kids fully buy in and just kind of have blind faith. We told them a lot of times, I know that right now you're at points of the year, me talking to them, I know right now you're thinking, is this worth it? And on the other end of the tunnel, you're going to find that, more wins are going to be because of this date, this day, going to camp, the extra running that we did, the weight room that was made a priority, and ultimately just trying to get kids to buy into what, winning football takes. We made a lot of progress, and we had a few more kids come out that hadn't played football in a little while, and a couple kids off other teams. And Jason Couch, the basketball coach here, was great, like Nate Valentine was for me at LCA. We worked in concert to share kids in June. We're still sharing kids in July right now, working on opposite days so those kids don't have to pick. And ultimately, I think the boys basketball team and the football team and other sports teams are going to be better because of that. And so, all those different layers to really try to get kids to buy into what, football can mean to you and what it can build for you for the rest of your life. And ultimately, right now we're facing a lot of adversity with what even the fall looks like. And so we're just plugging away. And that first year was – I'm glad that first year was last year, and my first year at Bullitt East is not this year. Let's say that.
Now, being that you had coming from a winning culture, you had so much success at LCA. Did you find it a little bit easier though, at least to show, look, I proved that my system works. I can do this. Just follow me. Did you feel like people bought on board faster?
Yeah, I think. Yes, I think that helped. There's no question. But there's also a point where. You look across the board at winning teams, and everybody's got their own little flavor and how they do things. And so me having success, was one step in the right direction, from what we did at LCA. But, we had offensive linemen that, frankly, got coached as well as any, kids in the state, with a former Boyle County O-lineman named Keegan Kendrick, who I told the principal that hired me, I said, you're an old Boyle County guy. I said, I need one thing if I'm coming to Bullitt East. And I said, I need a Boyle County O-line coach. I said, so we can run the football when it gets cold. And he helped us go out and find, a teacher that we had an opening for, and ultimately somebody that, we're long-lost brothers, long-lost twins, I swear, because, we have very much the same mentality. And this job was a lot easier because he helped get our offensive line in great shape to be able to win football games and run the football. Aaron Adams, first team all-district quarterback, and did a lot of it, with his feet and some of it with his arm. But, just a throwback football player. Reminds me a lot of Logan Nevis, and Jaden Barnhart, and even Dima Ballard way back in the day, just not left-handed, but just a competitor through and through. Start thinking about, the blind faith. We used that a lot last year. We kept telling kids to drink the Kool-Aid. We've got to take the progress we've made and realize that at times, these kids are working harder, twice as hard, 3 times as hard as they ever have before, and they may not have any juice left in the tank. And so we had to pull back at times, here and there. But by and large, the blind faith, there a lot of those kids had it. They really did buy into what we were asking them to do.
Coach, I know they ain't doing you no favors, man. I mean, you left where, y'all would have had to deal with, Danville at kind of like at his peak. Now you got probably the biggest dog on the block in your district, Coach, man. Now, how you got to deal? I mean, you jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire when you got to deal with my male bulldogs. How you handle that, Coach?
Well, you take it one day at a time. How do you eat an elephant? You can't take big chunks out. You got to take it one day at a time. And ultimately, what Coach Wolf and we played some 7-on-7, against them in the past when I was at LCA, and I've asked him for some advice. I've sat in on clinics, that he spoke at, and he's in that Mount Rushmore echelon of coaches, and so that's exciting to me because. There are teams that I won't mention by name that don't get me out of bed. And that's because I believe that our kids, in a system that we run and have run, at times we're not, I don't enjoy beating teams with running clocks. It's great to be able to say we've taken a step in a team that we didn't think we could do that to. We do it too. That's great. But by and large, I don't think, the male Bulldogs, when we can compete with them and we get the program where it needs to be, that it's ever going to be anything but a dogfight. And that's going to take some time. Obviously, the male Bulldogs are part of the Big Three, and I'd love to be able to be mentioned as part of the Big Four, and maybe there's some other teams in Louisville that are shooting for that too. But, what Chris Wolf and the male Bulldogs have been able to do over the years to basically, go toe-to-toe and beat pretty much every year or every other year at least, for the last however many with – St. X and Trinity, it's that's remarkable because there's really nobody else that's been able to do it at that rate. And ultimately, trying to get our kids to understand, our next big step's Fern Creek. Last year we lost 21-19 to Fern Creek. I'll tell you, it was a game.
I talked to a coach from Fern Creek. He said he was really impressed with the way he said y'all played them real close in the regular season game. Mm-hmm. And, the playoffs was a different story, but he was really impressed, man. I know you got a plan for us, Coach. I know somewhere in your vault you got us broke down and you know what to do to beat us. It's just a matter of getting the right pieces in place. So I'm going to keep an eye on you, Coach. I know you know what to do.
I appreciate that. It's going to take some time, but our kids are working hard. It's about as much as number, from a numbers standpoint as it is anything sometimes, and when I say that, it's not to say we need 120 on the roster that can't play. That's not what I mean, but it's having that next kid that's behind, a kid that you lose for the season, or, you're playing two kids at quarterback, or, you're getting some valuable reps with a backup early in the year because you just never know. And, we've never finished the same season with the 5 same offensive linemen at the beginning of the year as the end of the year, and so some of those things play into your mind when you start thinking about development, knowing there's a lot of different things that go into an off season where you start figuring out what that recipe and what that formula looks like. But, it's going to be that we're going to have to take a lot of steps forward in order to compete with Mayo. And last year where we were playing against Fern Creek, I was ecstatic, but ecstatic doesn't win games. And eventually when you lose by a couple points, it's a heartbreaking loss that you got to think about a lot and figure out what your next step is and how you go about, taking care of finishing second in the district. And then hopefully at one point, in the near future, sooner rather than later, we can compete with Mayo. And if we can compete with Mayo and go toe to toe with them, and when we can beat Mayo, we can beat anybody in the state, period, bar none, end of story, because they can beat anybody in the state, period.
Man, real quick, before we close out here. So, right now, there is no in-person school in Louisville, correct?
In Louisville, yeah, right. That is correct. It is starting virtual till beginning of October.
So how is that going to affect the season? Are they still planning on having a season? I mean, how does that work out as far as things transpiring right now?
That I don't know. I do know that Jerry Wyman, the district athletic director for all of Jefferson County schools, and I believe the superintendent and Julian Tackett have all had conversation to talk about what, virtual school plus, sports might entail. And so if I'm looking across the country, as I have been, you see other states that right now, like Georgia, I saw Gwinnett County's down there near Atlanta and is a huge district, has had North Gwinnett's won some state titles and all that down that direction. And they're starting virtual school, but it looks like Georgia, the GHSA, I think there's no 2 A's or 2 S's, whatever. But, nonetheless, their KHSA has essentially said we're going to play football starting, I think, the week after Labor Day or something. They've pushed the season back. The firm details I'm not sure of, but basically going virtual school doesn't stop or inhibit them from playing football. Now, Georgia's a football state, and I've said time and again here lately, if we see the Texases and the Georgias and the Floridas move forward, that gives the KHSA hope. And I know the KHSA and every other association is going to say, we're going to do what's best for our state. And the governor's going to do what's best for our state. And I understand that. At the same time, I know that there's going to be phone calls, conversations from the powers that be and the influencers around the state that also look at those states that are football states. And they're going to say, here's exactly what these guys are doing that are football states. We need to take a look at that, because if they're finding ways to do it, can we make that process work here, or in Ohio or in Indiana and Tennessee. And so the other states that I think right now are everybody's dealing with this, in a different way, in a different light, and politics aside, it's a pandemic for a reason across the world. And so you've got to look at it as a governor. I understand you're not going to make everybody happy in the same way as a football coach. You're not going to make everybody happy, and you got to make the best decision you feel for your team or your state. KHSA's got to do the same thing too. And I just believe that, with Jefferson County going virtual, it makes it harder for those schools to be able to get all those kids to campus. Well, virtual school also makes it hard for kids that, are in underprivileged homes or they're an at-risk kid. And so now they've got to have internet at the house. They got to have a Chromebook. They've got to have one-to-one devices. And there's a lot of things that go into making it a virtual setup for education too. And so there's so many fluid layers. There's so many, details that some days it changes, some days it doesn't. Heck, we've gone back down from groups of 50 to groups of 10, and we're, scrambling, trying, do we go back to our original groups that we had in groups of 10, before we could move to groups of 50, here a few weeks back, how can we adjust? Is it a recommendation? Is it a mandate? And so every day you get up, there's different details and different layers. And I think the hardest part that kids would have trouble with is we start the season and we got to stop abruptly, or we start the season, we get to Thursday walkthrough, Friday pregame meal, AD from another school calls our AD, or football coach calls the other coach, calls me, and they gotta we got to cancel a Friday night game, and we're 24 hours or less than 24 hours away from playing, and so it just air out of the balloon, bubble, all that. I mean, it's unprecedented times, and we got to roll with the punches and just figure it out. And if we're given the green light, we'll do it. But, it's virtual school, I think, creates a lot of layers that make it hard to figure out how we're going to still continue to play. But I think it's doable. I think if the people are motivated, if coaches are motivated to figure out how we can make all that work, then great, But it's one of those that I think athletics is one of the places that, kids can learn a lot of things that they're going to need later in life. And if, this group of juniors and seniors misses out on basically the last year and a half worth of school before they become adults, are they missing out on pieces and parts that, can develop the next leaders and the characteristics that the communities need in order to continue to move forward in a positive way and get them out the door as best we can, virtual, in person, whatever it may be, and hope they can continue to lead us, to promised land, so to speak, of, getting healthier and getting through this.
Good stuff, Coach, man.
Appreciate it.
Coach, go ahead, Coach.
I know you got another meeting to go to, but we appreciate sitting down with us, man.
Yeah, I want to say appreciate you. Thank you. I wish you the best luck against my Bulldogs. I'm hoping for you get a win, Coach. But when you get that win, I'll be with you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, we don't need him, Coach. Coach, I'm riding with you now. We don't need him. I'm riding with you. Don't worry about it.
Dude, man, on that note, we're going to go and get out of here. Anything else, Coach?
Man, it's always
good to talk to y'all.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Take care.
And always, we ask you to be a living donor. I'm Coach Bew, my man, Coach Truck, Coach E for joining us today. See y'all next time.
Peace.